Speaking of very real, we've got former National Security Advisor Susan Rice. She told us she feels our democracy is under assault and the attack is coming from within. She was responding to the president's call for Ukraine and China to investigate the Biden family. That was last week. This week, we're talking to Rice about her more than 25 years in public service, including as U.S. Ambassador to the United Nations. We met her across the street from her old offices in New York. She's got a new memoir. It's called Tough Love, My Story of the Things Worth Fighting For. It's published by Simon & Schuster. That's a division of CBS. And Rice says she wrote the book right now, as opposed to later, to take back control of her life and career and define it in her terms after feeling targeted in what was one of the most bruising political fights in memory.
I was close to President Obama, and he was a target. I'm an African-American woman. I don't take crap off of people, and I'm confident in my own skin. Putting all that together, put it in a political context of a campaign, and maybe I was an attractive target.
Susan Rice says she may never know why she was swept into the controversy surrounding the 2012 Benghazi terror attacks. Accused by Republicans of lying about a deadly assault on the U.S. Embassy in Libya.
I don't trust her. And the reason I don't trust her is because I think she knew better, and if she didn't know better, she shouldn't be the voice of America.
Well, remember the context, right? We tragically lost 4 Americans, including Ambassador Christopher Stevens, who was a colleague and friend of mine. For better or for worse, I agreed to be the administration representative on those 5 Sunday shows, days after that. What our assessment is, as of the present, is in fact what it began spontaneously in Benghazi as a reaction to what had transpired some hours earlier in Cairo.
Do you regret doing it?
Yeah.
The intelligence she shared on those shows turned out to be wrong. And Rice, who had been a frontrunner to be the next Secretary of State, felt pushed to withdraw.
So you regret going on the show in part because it stopped you from achieving? No.
I regret it mostly because, you know, what happened as a result of that is something I was always taught never to let happen, which is to have other people define me for me.
But what really hurts, Rice says, is the toll the Benghazi episode took on her then 9-year-old daughter, Maris.
She was scared. She was seeing images of men coming out of the walls at her. We didn't know what else to characterize these as than hallucinations. We took her to all kinds of doctors and were left with the conclusion that, in all likelihood, this was a stress reaction to what I was going through. And we as parents, I regret, I think, failed to understand that, you know, a TV in the background that we're tuning out, a little kid may not.
That would make me, as a parent, irate, having that kind of impact on my child.
You could say I felt the same.
Not that conflict or Capitol Hill were new to Susan Rice. Her father, Emmett, was a governor of the Federal Reserve, while her mother, Lois, rose to a senior job at the College Board. But while they were Washington's elite by day, by night, they were at each other's throat.
Screaming and yelling and the throwing of objects got, you know, pretty frightening for me and my baby brother.
You write that your family was burning down. Why did you run into the fire?
I didn't know anything else.
Rice not only survived, she thrived, catapulting to Stanford and Oxford and then the White House, first as a member of Bill Clinton's National Security Council before joining the Obama administration.
Has the presidency of Donald Trump been worse than expected?
Far worse than I ever could have imagined. Far worse.
And yet, you're hopeful?
I'm not hopeful about this president or his policies. I'm desperately concerned, to be as frank as I can. What I'm hopeful about is America's capacity to grow and change and to renew itself.
These days, part of that renewal is happening at Rice's own dinner table. Her son Jake is a young Republican, while her daughter Maris is a teenage progressive. And while they often disagree, she says, they're always a family.
What makes us able to hang together is that we realize that family is so much more important than our political or policy differences. And so in the same vein, Americans need to understand that at the end of the day, we're in this boat together. We get 2 choices. It's like we talked about earlier. You knock down, you either stay down or you get back up.
I also asked if she'd want to serve as Secretary of State if the next president is a Democrat, and she told me she would be open to it. So that's
It's so interesting to hear her talk about her daughter, and you realize the human cost of the toxic political dialogue that we have when you hear stories like that.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just devastating.
Absolutely. And you know, I want to say I knew her public persona, which is pretty tough and gruff. I knew she was a policy expert. This memoir is very good as a family story.
Yeah.
Families are complicated. Hers more complicated than most, and she came out of it.
We saw that picture of her parents, and we
Yes.
all commented, "Oh, what a great-looking couple!" And your
And then
next
you're like,
line was,
"Whoa, yeah."
It wasn't always so great.
It's not how
but
it looks.
It humanizes her because you look at officials like that and you forget they have
Yes.
families, they have backgrounds, but she's overcome a lot.
And it's survivable. That's the thing. You know,
Yeah.
family chaos, you can't get through it.
She's had a remarkable career.